both for BTech students and MTech students. Now, how many of you have heard about what is called as Moore's law? Who can tell me about Moore's law?
So it tells us about the number of transistors, the increment in the number of transistors per 3 years or something. I forgot the exact figure.
For decade, I
Sir,
guess.
sir, it
Or,
says that every 18
months.
after every 18 months, number of transistors will get doubled.
It basically says that in every 18 months, the number of transistors we will get in certain rupees or dollars will get doubled.
Okay, very nice. So we're already talking business now, money now, huh? Vishal, you're saying something?
Yes, sir. I was saying like he also said like the transistor or the speed of the computers that we see, they will double. The speed will double in every 18 months, which is basically if we increase the transistors and all. It's synonymous.
Okay.
Sir, at a device level, the size of the transistor is getting reduced, to be precise.
Okay.
Sir, also the speed and the capability of our computers will increase in every couple of years, and we will pay less for them also.
Okay. So we're talking about money, what we are going to pay and everything. Now this is coming from your side, not from my side. Okay, great. What else? Other views on Moore's law? So is it a law?
So it's just an observation which we are looking at.
It's an
Yeah,
observation.
it wasn't a law. Yeah.
It's just
But we
a
call it
prediction.
Moore's law. We still call it
Exactly.
Moore's law. Yeah.
Yes.
But it is not really a law. So what was it? Who was Moore? Gordon Moore?
Co-founder of Intel or something.
So what Moore observed was, and that was way back. So Moore's law says that every 18 months, the number of transistors you can pack per square centimeter will double. What did that mean? That means that if I have this particular area in which I have to design my chip, my functionality, then every 18 months, this area can shrink. So I have some additional bandwidth to add more circuits there. What does that mean? That means that I can integrate more functionality onto the same die. What does that also mean? It also means that if I do not want to add any more functionality, I can reduce the die size and my price would reduce. Or if I add more functionality, then at the same price, I am now getting more functionality. So I'm getting more value. Either case, whether my price reduced or more integration happened, Moore's law said that user value would increase. Are you able to see this? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's clear.
Okay. So then this Moore's law just said this much. Then you guys added other stuff and you assumed that also to be Moore's law. There was a law, or there was something called Denard scaling that was proposed by Denard, who said that you can reduce the size of gate, and when you reduce the size of gate, you should also reduce the depth of the source and drain, and you should reduce the size of the gate oxide, thickness of the gate oxide. And he gave these rules to say that if you do all this, then what happens? Then your scaling ki wajah se, because you're reducing the size, so you are coming into the small region, the price would reduce, but also the performance would improve. Okay, so that is Denard scaling. That with every shrink in technology, so when linked with Moore's law, it may mean to say that not only will your devices become cheaper, they will also perform faster. Okay. And then there is another rule, Pollacks rule, which said that as you integrate more and more stuff on your die, okay, the performance would improve. Why would the performance improve? Because now you do not need to go off chip. So when you have to access a memory, the memory is now already on chip. You don't need to spend delays of going through an IO and then onto a PCB and then onto another IO and then the memory. So your overall delays would decrease when you integrate more and more stuff onto the same die. So Pollacks rule states that when you integrate more, the performance would improve. So these three gentlemen, Pollack, Denard, and Moore, they kind of established that there is a virtuous cycle that operates in semiconductor manufacturing, due to which, you know, electronics has really changed the face or the way we are living today. So, you know, when the first time cell phones came in India, which was, I think, 1994 or something like that, the phone was this big, heavy like a brick. And every call would cost something like 120 rupees per minute. Today, your phones are tiny, teeny tiny. Even if they're not teeny tiny, they're not so because of your choice, because you wanted a bigger screen. Otherwise, the capability to have very small feature phones is right there. Feature phones are very, very small when you don't have that bigger screen. So today, the call rates, for example, you know, you have unlimited calling for 199 rupees for the entire month. Forget about per minute call rates. Just talking about a few paisa. Where I understand the value of money has only degraded. So what was 125 rupees in 1994, today it would be worth something like 1,000 rupees or more. So instead of paying 1,000 rupees for a call, today you are paying only a few paisa per call. And that is largely because of this virtuous loop that has set in, and that has changed the way we live today. This is the main reason why VLSI is so hot. Will it continue to remain hot? We don't know. But yeah, it is hot today.
Sir?
Yes, Raghav?
Sir, I have a thing to ask in Denard scaling. Sir, Denard scaling is saying that when we reduce the features, the size of the features of a particular device, the performance increases. And we also see in addition to that, that the price is also decreasing. Is he trying to say that?
Scaling means that you are now making the same die in a smaller area. So the price is naturally reducing.
So, but like the similar kind of thing moves as that your
Moore simply said the number of transistors per centimeter square will double. So he also said about price. Yes. Both talked about price in a way.
Okay, so Moore didn't specifically told about the sizes of the devices.
No.
Okay. Basically,
simply said you will be able to pack more devices per unit square.
Okay. Denard basically went even more.
He gave the rules. He gave the rules on how to be able to pack those devices there.
So can you just repeat that?
So he gave the rules by which you could enable that. Moore simply observed something. He just said offhandedly. Denard gave the rules to enable it.
Okay, so you have to reduce that channel length or the gate length. Okay.
Exactly. Moore's was simply an observation. It was not even a law. We call it a law, but it was simply an observation.
Okay.
So what did Moore see? Moore saw that, you know, the relative manufacturing cost per component was something like this in 1962, then it reduced in 65, then it reduced in 70, and he saw that the number of components were increasing. This was his only observation. And based on that observation, over time, what was seen was that actually the number of devices were doubling. So this is a logarithmic line. Okay? So if it appears to be linear over here, it means actually things are doubling. It's a exponential growth. And this is what was evident. Therefore, people thought it is a law. It actually is not a law. It was simply an observation. Okay? And because it was not a law, actually, we noticed that as we come to, let us say, so this is, I'm not sure if you're able to read this clearly. This is 90 nanometer. This is 65 nanometer. This is 40 nanometer, 28 nanometer, 20 nanometer, and 14 nanometer. So we see that until 28 nanometer, cost is reducing. But then the cost is no longer reducing. So in a way, something about Moore's law has given in. Why? Why do you think this has happened?
Due to the power dissipation, sir. I mean, like this was even mentioned in CMOS class. So, yeah, as we pack them together, the amount of power dissipated gets increased, and by then we have to, I mean, like we have to compensate this cost to reduce that power. If
Okay.
that's, I mean, if that's right, I'm not sure about that, but I think
that is one aspect, but no, that's not the real reason. This is cost per transistor.
Manufacturing cost.
Yeah, this is only about manufacturing cost. Why is it breaking? Why is it increasing now?
So I think it's something to do with mask sizing, and I mean, because as you said, the cost of technology and lithography, basically, when we introduce that to reduce the sizes even more, due to that technology, the price increase.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe the mask. We are needing more number of mask or better mask or very fine mask, something like that.
So you're kind of there. The overall manufacturing ecosystem is not able to handle finer geometries than 28 nanometers. So what happens? The total number of masks increase. And in fact, that is the reason, even the International Semiconductor Association, it gave a roadmap, of technology shrink like this. It said in 2013 that by 2025 we will be at 7 nanometer node or something like this. But in its 2015 report, it said no, that doesn't seem to be possible. We'll probably saturate at 10 nanometers. Because they observed that the scaling or the rules that we wanted to apply are no longer possible. Okay. But then what is this, all this talk about 7 FinFETs and 5 FinFETs? You must have heard about these technologies, if at all. People are still talking about these technologies. So the fact of the matter is, in 7 FinFET technology, 7 nanometer FinFET technology, there is no dimension which is equal to 7 nanometers. No physical dimension equal to that. It used to be the case until, let us say, 32 nanometer or even 45 nanometer. 32 pe bhi nahi tha. At 45 nanometer, it used to be the case that what you draw would actually be the dimension on silicon also. Okay. But in 7 FinFET, for example, there's no physical dimension which is equivalent to 7 nanometers. It is called 7 FinFET only because it is able to give that 15 to 20% performance gain from the previous designs, which we used to call 10 nanometers. 10 nanometers has no physical dimension of 10 nanometers in it. And it was called 10 nanometers simply because it gave those kind of gains as you would expect from a technology shrink through various other means by using different materials or whatever. But it gave you those kind of gains and therefore you called it 10 nanometers FinFET. Okay. But physically there was nothing 10 nanometer in that technology also. So what has happened? The reality is that the cost of masks has increased very steeply as you come to finer geometries. So what does that do? That increases the cost of manufacturing significantly. Why does this mask set cost increase? Because you're trying to draw features which are, let us say, 28 nanometer apart by using a light, with the wavelength of 193 nanometers. Because of this, you have to do a lot of optics, and you need to make additional masks so that diffraction patterns, interference, and all those are taken care of. You need to do a lot of resolution enhancement so that you're able to draw a feature of 28 nanometer with a wavelength of light of 193 nanometer there. Okay. And how to take care of it?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So isn't the cost also increasing because as we reduce the size, then the defects also increase. So the overall average usable, actually the chips that are actually usable and correctly functioning, they also decrease. Like we get 15% yield or 30% yield at the end. So that is also increasing this.
Is that the case really? For example, if I have this one big wafer, let me make a few dies out of it. Okay.
No, wait, sir. I think I said it. It's countering my statement.
You're able to see this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we will see this in a little more detail later when we talk about yield, but since you already mentioned it, so let me just cover it now. So let's say this is the wafer. I say there were 4 defects. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and 4. These 4 defects will lead to loss of 4 dies. Total number of dies are 1, 2, 3, 3 and 12 and 16. So 4 out of 16 dies are defective. Yield loss is 25%. Now let me say I reduce the chip size to half. Now how many dies do I have? You see, I have 6 and then 8, then again 8. Possibly this set of dies would start to work. I don't know. We could add them. Or 6 plus, let us 24, 30, 30 plus 3, 33. Out of 33 dies, now 4 are failing. What is the yield loss? 12%. So when you reduce the die area, you actually improve yield for the same defectivity. That is one more reason why we say that area is gold in VLSI.
Yes, sir. So, but isn't the number of chips that are defective also depending on the density? Because if the transistors are sort of big and sparse, then
if you have ensured that your DRCs are all clean, then you're not expecting an error anyways, is it not?
So whatever dust particle comes.
So dust particles are independent of what technology or how dense your layout is, na? Dust particles are the characteristic of your clean room.
Yes, sir, but
they don't change with technology.
If
there were 4 dust particles, they remain to be 4 dust particles only.
So, but the probability that they will actually damage a design will increase if the transistors are placed too close together.
Yeah. So essentially, what happens is as you scale in technology, Madhur, you also change the specifications of your clean room. Instead of a class 10 clean room, you will go to class 1 clean room.
Okay, sir.
So you spend more in the clean room, maintaining a clean room, but you would not really want those kind of defects to impact your yield. There are other detractors anyways, but at least dust is not something that you will let to distract your yield.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Samaksh.
Sir, I think what he was trying to say, and maybe I have the same doubt, sir. If we start to reduce the size of our chips or our components, then the things that can cause defects are going to increase. For example, for a large component, a dust particle might not be as problematic as for something which is comparable to the size of dust. So I think what he was trying to say is we're going to have more number of problems as we start to reduce the size of the components, and we need to tackle those problems, because of which our cost will increase.
Yeah, but maintaining a clean room which is of a higher quality does not increase the cost in the same ratio as the mask set cost that you are seeing here, Samaksh.
Yeah, okay, sir, I understand.
That is some logistics. Yes, some cost will increase 1%, 2%, not like this.
Right.
So we are just, I know we are at the end of the time allocated for the class. Is it okay if we continue for another 3-4 minutes? We will just close this section then.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how to reduce this cost? The mask set cost. One way to reduce this mask set cost is by using what is called as extreme ultraviolet light for photolithography. So all these, 1900i set, 1900i dual patterning, 1900i second generation dual patterning, all these use 193 nanometer light. Okay. What we are saying is that please go to EUV. EUV, the wavelength of light is 13 nanometer. As soon as you do that, the number of masks that you will need will reduce. And therefore, as you also increase the capability of your EUV machines, that is, they are able to give more power and therefore expose more number of dyes per unit time, you will reduce the cost further. So there is only one company in the world that makes these EUV machines, ASML. And whatever is the semiconductor cycle, ASML stock price always rises and rises. You know why? Because it is the only one. No one has yet mastered the same technology the way ASML has mastered it. So we see that 7 FinFET has been enabled largely because EUV has come into picture. And litho costs have been pushed back towards the normal range. They're no longer increasing at the same rate. Okay, but EUV is being used only for a few layers in, let us say, 15 or 16 FinFET, but in many layers when you're talking about 7 FinFET technology. Okay, and then another way that the semiconductor industry has found their way around more is, more is like saying that, okay, go from 130 to 90 to 165 to 45 and so on. This is baseline CMOS, your processing technologies. But we realize that because electronics is touching different facets of life, we also need analog circuits, which would not scale. We need high voltage circuits, for example, those in cars, car batteries, they cannot scale. So we are also adding additional content onto our technology so that electronics continues to add more value to users, independent of whether this scaling happens, miniaturization happens or not. Okay, this direction of movement is called more than more. This is essentially diversifying. So you have image sensors, you have capacitive sensors, you have all these piezoelectric sensors. Everything is trying to getting embedded onto the die, into the same die, integrated into the same die. And you're now adding more dies onto the same package, so system and package, and so on. So overall, you are able to add higher value to the users there. Okay, so that is the primary reason why VLSI is hot.